See Jolene's there. Karen, welcome. We've got some added guests, I guess. Jillian, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And I've seen someone else here that I haven't seen before. Owen, welcome. Michael.
Hi, I'm here with him.
Oh, okay, great. Well, welcome to our meeting. I'm not sure what meeting we're at, Flo. What is this, number 10-ish?
Yep.
Something like that. Did Simone send her regrets?
Yes, she did. And we're still waiting for Erin from Superior North Community Futures Development Corporation. But we can get started and I'll watch the waiting room for her if she joins us.
Okay, fantastic. So let me just pull up the, sorry, I didn't have the agenda up yet. Okay, so if I can call to order the meeting of the Community Revitalization Advisory Committee regular meeting that's on Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. Call to order at 7:03 p.m. Sorry, I can't see anyone here. Oh, see Owen. Right in center. I like that.
It's the only place I can grow hair anymore. I can't get any up here.
Okay, so sorry, got a sidetrack there with Owen's mustache. We come back. I think I've already been through roll call, so sorry, we need someone to propose and second our call to order.
Excuse me, are we waiting for a Jason? There's a Jason in our waiting room.
Oh.
Jason Nesbitt, Aaron's husband, is done.
Jason, also known as Aaron?
Aaron's husband is named Jason. So I hope so.
Maybe let it flow and we'll.
Aaron, if that's you, you've got your microphone muted. Maybe if you could just send a quick chat that that's you.
So suspenseful.
Well, what would you like to do, Mr. Chair?
Well, you can maybe, did you let him in?
You know what? I think, oh, there. Aaron, is that you?
Sorry, it's because I just have the little screen right now because I have my agenda up.
Oh, it looks like microphones.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Aaron.
Hi.
All right, welcome, Aaron.
Thanks. Just having some issues with the webs or the internet.
Great. So I'm just going to roll down within the roll call. At this point, is there any declaration of conflict of interest? So moving on then, and item 4 would be the approval of the agenda as circulated. Has everyone had time to look at the agenda?
I'll just make one amendment. So item number 7, I have invited Mike Talker and Jillian Albert from Think Design to walk us through the draft master plan, and they've prepared a 10-minute presentation to give us a high-level overview of that. So instead of my name there, it'll be their names.
Fantastic. So can we approve the agenda as amended by Flo?
I will, Karen.
Perfect. Thank you, Karen. seconded by,
I think Jim put his hand up, or
okay, sorry, I got the little screen on again for the agenda. Thanks, Flo. Okay, seconded by Jim. Great, thanks. Moving on, to item 5, the review and approval of the meeting minutes from January 26, 2021 regular meeting. Hopefully everyone had a chance to go through it. If we don't have any questions, comments, or concerns, can I get someone to move that we approve minutes?
Cody?
That was Cody,
Yeah,
and seconded by,
I will, Karen.
thank you, Karen. Great, so number 6, we had business arising, but you had Simone's name next to it.
yeah, I think that's a typo that I made.
Okay,
I'll just take it away there. We've updated the members the past 3 or 4 meetings in a row that we still have 2 committee vacancies, 1 youth member and 1 Indigenous member. Despite advertising for those and through word of mouth, we still have not received any applications to fill those vacancies. So I just want to have a quick conversation with the committee if you think it's time for us to revise that criteria within our terms of reference to open it up to the general population, or if you want us to continue to advertise for those 2 positions, a youth member and an Indigenous member. What are your thoughts?
well, my thoughts is like, we've been at this for over a year and we haven't got any positions filled, so I would recommend that maybe we go to council and ask them to just open it up, because the more the merrier. Especially when we're getting into like the exciting parts of the projects. We're getting all these nice plans and we're having some great discussions. Like it's a great time to get involved.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. If it's sat idle for this long, you might as well open it up and hopefully fill a couple seats anyway.
I think Jim's dog wants to say something.
Yeah.
So if there's no one who's in opposition to that, can I get a motion to request to amend the terms of reference to open the 2 vacancies up to the general population?
Florence, you're fantastic at writing motions, so I would move to approve the motion you write.
Okay. And a seconder? Jim, and all in favor?
Jim and Cody, Jim first.
All in favor? Okay, great. So I'll reflect that in the minutes, and then I'll have a chat with Jolene at the office tomorrow about how to go about amending the terms of reference.
Perfect. That's why we have you guys, the experts at the table. Okay, moving on then. If there's no other business arising, we're at already number 7. So this would be our new guests, Michael and Jillian, for their presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm going to give what is a short presentation. So my name is Jillian Albert. I am a landscape designer and arborist with Indine, and I've been looking after the Manitowoc Trails master plan since it started back in May. So I'll just pull up a little presentation and share my screen.
I'm going to make you the host, Jillian. So that you can...
I think, let me see. It says host disabled, attendees sharing screen. So I think what you can do, either you can make me the host or the button to share screen. If you go to, if you select participants and then select my name, I think there's an option there. Give it a shot. I just figured this out for the first time the other day, so.
Okay, I jumped the gun and I made you the host. So
Okay.
I think you have all the
Woo.
control now.
All right, all the power.
Yeah.
Okay, so just gonna give you a brief introduction to the plan. So the plan is a collaboration between Destination Northern Ontario, the Township of Manitowoc, and they're using Think Design as well as Ken Hooverman, who is a off-road vehicle activist, I guess, and he's also a trailblazer. So he's giving us a little bit more of that technical expertise on this project. The purpose of this plan is focused on trails tourism. So we're looking at advancing tourism for the region, but then also trying to figure out what trail enhancements can we make within the community that will make for a better recreational experience for the community. We're looking at all different types of trail types. As all of you probably know, there's lots of different recreation activities that you can do in Manitowoc. So we're looking at skiing, snowshoeing. Skiing is both cross-country and downhill. We're looking at ATVing and snowmobiling, snowshoeing, hiking, walking, and also mountain biking. This study is being coordinated with the Community Revitalization Study, as well as the Parks, Recs, and Facilities Master Plan, which is also being produced with our firm. And at this point in the project, we have a draft plan that includes an inventory, which is a fairly comprehensive review of all the trails in the town and important ones throughout the region, and those have been mapped and supported with charts. And then we also have our recommendations completed now. And then today as well, Flo and I got the draft report online, so that will be available for the public to review now. So in terms of community engagement, all the engagement has been online and by phone. The stakeholder interviews have been really important for this process. A lot of stakeholders provided mapping that allowed us to understand exactly what is where in Manitowoc. We have kept in touch with these stakeholders and we started with a website that was specific to the Trails Master Plan. And then once the township had their new website, My Manitowoc, we've started posting new updates through there. We have had 2 online surveys and just posted a 3rd one today that goes along with the draft master plan. We've had a meeting discussing canoe route development with Bidaghan Nishnabeg. That was about a month ago, and that's looking to be really promising. And that is it for community engagement. I've already touched on this a bit, but the inventory maps out different trails in Manitowoc. Our sort of been stakeholder discussions, as well as open source GIS data. And we've also gotten some more specific data from the MNR. And And then we also have, there's documents, I think, back from 2002, where there is a review of all the canoe routes in the region, as well as the different waterfalls. So that has been a really important source for our mapping as well. So this is our map of central Manitowoc, so showing the existing trails. I just thought I'd share that so you guys have an idea of what the mapping is looking like. And this is another example for you. It shows the Black River canoe route from right in Manitowoc, and it's showing the northern section of the route, which eventually connects to the Pick River. So our recommendations are in 9 different categories. We have many general recommendations. We have recommendations that are specific to the waterfall and rapids trails. And we see a lot of potential for tourism, these trails. We have recommendations for canoe routes, which also focuses on tourism. We have trailhead recommendations. So those are both trailheads for within the town and trailheads for the canoe routes and for some of the ATV routes. We have a few new walking and hiking trails that are being proposed. We have a mountain biking destination plan being proposed. And then we have a few recommendations for cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, and a few for off-highway vehicles and snowmobiling. And if you're still interested, I can go into detail about all of them. For our general recommendations, we're recommending a online trails portal. So it'll be good for, especially for tourism, for there to be one place where visitors or residents can go and turn on and off different layers on an interactive map, so they can really get a sense of all that is available in Manitowoc. We're proposing an interpretive signage strategy that would pick up on work that has begun with the Archival Society in Manitowoc. We have a trails promotion strategy. We have some specific information about tourism websites that need more information on them. Municipal mapping that addresses the capacity for mapping within Manitowoc and whether that needs to be increased, if there needs to be some in-house GIS capability. We propose a trails committee. We have a few here on management. So we're proposing a new potentially full-time position, which would be Parks and Trails lead hand. And then we have specific maintenance recommendations that Parks and Trails lead hand would be following. We have trail design standards that just provide a general idea of how trails should be built based on the activity that is intended. We are recommending redevelopment of the old Manitowoc campground, and the recreation programming is recommending that there should be an opportunity to see if all of the development to learn new trail skills is available. So see if maybe there should be mountain biking classes or something like that. For the waterfall trails, we have identified the areas where the waterfalls are fairly close to each other. So we have mapped out a potential way to connect those two waterfalls, making a linked trail mining those to destination points. But successful, what is really is the washout recovery plan. One of the things we've heard from the public is that all of these waterfalls and rapids, these special areas that people used to love to visit, are really hard to access now that roads have been washed out. So we want to try and see if we can prioritize which of those roads could potentially be recovered. And if that's not the case, then we'll try and find alternate ways of getting to those destinations. So we have selected 3 different canoe routes that will be priorities for development, which essentially means more signage, some kind of maintenance program, and a promotional campaign along with those routes. So the 3 routes are the Fosh River, which connects to Megagami Lake, the Pick River, and the Black River. And so far, it looks like the Black River is going to be of the higher priority recommendations with potential partnership between Manitowoc and Bitagan Mishnabik. The trailheads, so we have major and minor trailheads. The minor trailheads are essentially just pointing out where a sign potentially with a map showing the route needs to be added so that people have a better idea of the trail network that's available. And then the major trailheads are trailheads that will have maybe a more significant sign. They might have a bench or 2 along with them. And in terms for small falls, which we are suggesting a major trailhead, they'll also require a parking lot. These are the 3 trails that we're recommending for development within Manitowoc. So the Manitowoc Lake Loop will go all around. It'll extend the fitness trail that is on the north side of the lake and connect all around the lake. And this project will be done in coordination with a proposed multi-use paved trail that is part of the community revitalization study. And then we have 2 other trails. We have a loop around Gog Lake, which is potentially going to be a wider trail at 2.5 meters if it is to accommodate cross-country skiing, which there's been some interest in longer trails for cross-country skiing in the community. And then there's also a small trail that would connect the Gog Lake Loop to the CBC Tower Trail, and that would create an extra 6-kilometer loop with that small trail link. We talked to a few different stakeholders that are interested in mountain biking in Manitowoc. And what we do find interesting is that Manitowoc is quite unique in its landscape. There aren't a lot of places in the area that have the terrain that Manitowoc does. So that does give Manitowoc a unique opportunity in terms of mountain biking. And we're thinking it's promising seeing the success that has occurred with the skate park, that those kind of extreme sports have some sort of appeal, and people are willing to travel to have those experiences and try new trick parks. We have 3 recommendations for cross-country skiing. One is a few ideas of how to make night skiing more appealing or more welcoming. This is a very specific recommendation of just the need for new signage at the club. And there's also interest to have one of the trails, the Cowesa Red Trail, be maintenance so that it can be a trail that can be walked in the summer. So that would potentially be a project that would be maintained by the Park and Trails lead hand that is introduced in the general recommendations. Snowshoeing. So we are detailing snowshoe map. Some of the snowshoe trails use the old Wilroy Road. So we're proposing that there might need to be some discussion of whether that use can continue for a long time in the future. And we proposed a winter picnic area. And lastly, off-highway vehicles and snowmobiling. So we've had an idea that because the snowmobiling club has had, I think, lower membership, we had the idea of putting both off-highway vehicles and snowmobiling together as one unified club to see if that they'd have more membership that way, and I guess more weight in decision making. The recreation management recommendation just discusses signage and potential for like a small education campaign, and the backcountry riding tourism plan is interesting because the concept here is to focus on a term called boondocking, which Ken Hooverman introduced me to. So the idea here is that instead of trying to have a really maintained trail system for snowmobiling and off-highway vehicles, you could focus on building some interesting maps that create some curiosity about the region and attract riders that are interested in more of a rough backcountry road adventure rather than really pristine trails. The off-road motorcycle loop marketing plan is an extension of an idea from the Superior County Association. They've noticed that there are already a certain number of people that are motorcycling along this route, and that's something that is an opportunity to be marketed. And then geocaching is something that can be integrated into the OHB trail system to add a little bit more intrigue. It's a very easy thing to implement and is a very family-friendly addition to that trail network. And then lastly, we've seen how successful the ATV Jamboree has been. So we wanted to propose that if there's capacity and enough volunteers in the future, it'd be great to consider a autumn or fall colored theme ATV Jamboree because it's been so popular. So those are the 9 categories. We've made it through. Our next steps are implementation. So we have all of these somewhat detailed ideas, and now we're trying to figure out what will cost and how can those costs be distributed through a certain number of years. We're using a priority matrix to make decisions as a tool to make some decisions about which recommendations should be prioritized, should come in those few years. And that's like a system, go through recommendation and does this increase access to the water, and that will give it a certain score and help us make decisions about what to prioritize. And then along with implementation, what will be really important is proposed mapping, which will show exactly where are the trailheads, the in-town trailheads, where are they proposed, where are the three new trails proposed. So that's the one around the lake and around Gog Lake, and maps to show the waterfall trails that are proposed. So that is it for me. That was probably could have been a little bit more high level. Thanks for bearing with me. And I'm interested to hear what questions people have. Maybe Mike has something that he wants to add or clarify. So yes, I turn it over to everyone else.
Thanks, Jen. I know you think that your presentation might have been could have been better, but honestly, I was really listening because being in my 3rd year now in Manitowoc, a lot of the stuff that you mentioned and you hit on is actually stuff that I've always thought needed to be improved, like finding the waterfalls, trying to get to these locations when you're somewhat new to the community, and then, spending all this time and, realizing there's a washout or there's not, enough signage to get there, stuff like that. So honestly, I think it was very thorough and it was great. Thank you very much for your presentation. What's going through my mind right now is basically what you said on the next steps. How long will this take to implement? What is, where are we gonna, can we get the money for this and stuff like that? So I'll just leave it to anyone else for questions on what you presented today. That's always what's going in my mind, is because this is exciting. It's stuff that a lot of the activities I would see myself and my family doing, every weekend. So for that, I thank you for your presentation, and I'll just let someone else speak on.
Hi, it's Florence. I just want to point out that at the beginning of Jillian's presentation, she talked about the partnerships, but there's an important partnership that wasn't mentioned, and that's the one with the Manitowoc Economic Development Corporation. And they did provide some financial assistance towards the project. And Karen Robinson, who's a member on this committee, is a representative of the EDC. And I just want to personally thank Karen and the committee for their contributions towards this project, and look forward to working with them on hopefully, upon council approval, implementing this plan. Thank you.
It's Erin. 2 things. The first one, you had mentioned for the snowmobile trails to have off-highway vehicles as well. Were you including that quads or quads with tracks? Any type of off-road vehicle? What was your thoughts on that?
So I think what you're touching on is there's an idea of what we've called MOVA. So it's just for the committee, so that the committee can be a larger size, to have both all types of non-motorized or motorized vehicles in the same club. As for what specific vehicles will be allowed, I think ideally, if more snowmobile trails can be maintained at a level that the ATVs can use, that's probably great. But we haven't gotten that level of detail of which trails will be included for all the different types of off-highway vehicles.
Okay, just because I quad and I dirt bike and I snowmobile, and after our trails are groomed for snowmobiles and someone comes along with a quad, you want to lose it because it's just destroyed. But that's my personal opinion.
That's good.
Is that something that happens quite a bit? That's the first time I think we've heard that. So
here, well, I live in Scriber, and a lot of people in Terrace Bay are quadders, not as many snowmobilers, and in Scriber it's the opposite. So when they come out on our groomed trails, which we groom ourselves because we don't have a snowmobile club. So my husband and I drag trail a lot, and then they come along, and it makes for a very, very rough go.
So these are quads that are used in the snow.
Yeah, so they have tracks. They look like snowmobile tracks that are put on. The tires are taken off, and yeah.
Okay.
And the second thing was the boondogging. So like my kids and myself, my husband, we have boondogging machines, and that's one of our loves. Just this past weekend, a bus came from Thunder Bay up to our neck of the woods, and I don't know how they somehow posted on social media. So they had taken over the hydro lines, and for hours they were like climbing like mountains, and it was pretty cool to see. So if you can start advertising and marketing for that type of riding, which they do out in BC, and they have chalets, and people die for that type of riding. So anyway, that's just me and my redneck.
That's wonderful. That's so good to know that people are already coming for that experience.
And I don't know if anybody's been down to the corner of Highway 17 and 614, but if you have been lately, you'll notice all the skidoo trails along the sides of the highways. And that's what they're referring to as this boondocking, where you just get on the snow and ride it. So it is quite popular, and I have seen trucks with trailers parked at the corner, and they're off riding. It is a bit scary when they come right up on the bank of the highway as you're driving by, but yeah, hopefully that's not all the time.
No, I think
Well, Jillian,
there, and if you have trails for snowmobiles, you don't want ATVs, even ATVs with tracks on there. It's you got to really keep everything separate. So if you're gonna have a joint club, you're gonna have like an ATV club, but your ATV club obviously is gonna run for so many months, and then when the snow flies, we need to get the trails ready. So then your club members know, okay, access, revote this time while get the trails ready, and then you have to have that overlap. But it doesn't mean that backcountry ride isn't permitted, right? It's like what a lot of people do around here. So I think that's important. But one piece I think that you kind of hit on, Jillian and Michael, is we need to be working together. We need to be one cohesive unit. We can't have this little club and this little club and this little club. It's a small community already. So we really need to get together and work together, utilize our resources, utilize our volunteers, just like make one nice big plan for everyone.
the one thing I wanted to make sure that everybody realizes too is that as we're moving through this process, we're getting close to the end. So the draft is available on My Manitowoc, and so if you can share that with people, anybody you think would be interested in providing, maybe they're just interested in the off-highway vehicles aspect of it, or maybe they're only into snowshoeing. We're looking for all input. So it's a big document, and we don't necessarily need everybody to read every page, but everybody in Manitowoc is probably interested in something in it, in terms of even just hiking trails and walking trails. So if you could please share it with people, and we can wrap it up. We're going to be wrapping up fairly soon, because once we have the input, we're going to be the final implementation strategy, and then figuring out how this project can, or all these projects can roll out over the next 10 years, and identify what kind of funds are needed to support the implementation of the plan. So, yeah, any input you can provide or your colleagues can provide would be really appreciated.
Question for you, Florence. At the EDC board meeting last week, we discussed, are you going to set out 1, 2, 3? Like, is it going to go in some kind of order of what you're trying to do at the first time, like the first point? Like, are you going to say we're going to work on this first?
Are you talking specifically about the Trails Master Plan?
Yeah.
Okay, so our next steps, so once we receive comment from the public and we receive the implementation section of the plan, then we'll present the plan to council. And then as we develop the budget, we will ask council to set aside money in the budget to work on specific projects within the plan. And
Okay.
One of the first recommendations you'll see under the general recommendations is to form a committee. And so
Okay.
with the committee membership, which we propose to be another committee of council, that they put forward their recommended projects in a particular order, and the budget would reflect that work. And it would also, we would also seek out financial support from all levels of government to assist with costs. So we would try to leverage the tax dollar that council is putting forward to triple that through federal and provincial funds as well.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a bit of work that has to happen. The funding does take times. Some funding is 6 months in review, and other funding is a year in review. So there are some smaller projects that we could probably tackle right away. And just to let you know that I did submit an application to the Rural Economic Development Program for Parks and Trails lead hand. And I have had conversations with Karina at FedNor and to see if the federal government would match those funds. And so they're looking at that right now to see if the project would be eligible. But it is something that we want to get, at least get the position funded for this year. And we can have a person dedicated to starting to work on the trail development. And then the marketing, promotions, and signs can follow after that. So that's kind of where it sits at the moment. And again, the application is submitted, but at the end of the day, it is a decision of council whether they're going to put those funds to cover our share of that in the budget. So that'll be a budget request.
The one thing I just wanted to mention, so I did go through the inventory and the recommendations, and really great work that was put into this. Is really interesting. I kind of echo a lot of what the colleagues around the table here were saying about the mountain biking and about the snowmobiling opportunities. One thing I did like on there is the canoe routes as well. Like, I think that, you know, I just read an article recently, like the Ontario parks have just been overwhelmingly booked so quickly this year because people are, you know, trying to get outside more often as well from like Southern Ontario, from larger cities. And like, I think there is an opportunity to maybe develop a lot of those canoe routes as well. And especially because of the connection with Passaw, like you're really kind of close to some of these like beautiful like Lake Superior areas as well. And Manitowoc has a lot of its own beauty. The one thing I was gonna bring up, and I'm not sure, is maybe just like a consideration for the broader aspects of these like outdoor-based tourism, but I was sitting in on, I think it was some kind of destination or Superior Country, it was some discussion around tourism. And so it's like, there's all these outside adventure, like outside activities that people can do, but unless there's a way to draw the tourists back into the town to be spending money and to be like at the restaurants, like shopping at the stores, the tourism itself, like, and people can go biking on the trails, or they can go canoeing, or they can go snowmobiling, but unless you're finding a way to draw them back into the city or the town somehow to spend money, like that's the trick too. So I'm not sure exactly how to go about thinking about that, but
yeah, that's such an important part of it. I think one of the things that we're excited about for the canoe routes is that there's essentially 2 canoe routes that connect Manitowoc and Bidagondishnabe. And especially for the Black River, you can actually start right in the town. So I think that has some potential to have outfitting businesses start up from that. But yeah, that's the really tricky piece, isn't it? Is making sure those dollars actually come in from the tourists after all effort is made. Yeah.
I think that's why the campground's an important one too, because it gives people a place to, they can arrive, they can stay there, and then they're spending time in Manitowoc because if there isn't that accommodation or the opportunity to stay with their trailer and that sort of thing, to set up camp, so to speak, for a few days, then they probably won't necessarily stay. So, but I think all these things, yeah, they work together, and of course with the ultimate goal that they are going to stick around and spend some money and do all these things. So.
Florence, I got a couple things if I could add. And I'm not sure the group, I heard one lady mention about the Manitowoc Lake Loop. You will not be able to walk a loop around Manitowoc Lake. You can go along the south side and around the north side, kind of to the point at the far end at the pump house. And that would be limits. You go around, you're into private mining property again, and they don't want that. So it's not like we could have a connector route. There was an idea, I know Karen and probably a couple others heard of years ago. They actually talked about putting a floating walkway across the lake at that point over there during the summer months to have it to be a loop. But as far as a physical walking land loop right now, that's not something that's readily there. As well, I heard you mention the CBC Tower Trail. There is a trail that goes up there from the bottom of the lake on the north side. It was actually an old pipeline that used to go up to Wilroy Mines. There was a woodscaped pipe up the hill that takes you back again. And once again, people do snowshoe up through there now. There's the odd person goes at an unofficial level, if you will, because again, you are entering into private property that is gated on the front side and the roadside. Just it happens to be that you walk through the bush and you come in at the back side unrestricted, but not really something we may need to look at or where it goes, if there's an alternate to go up to that location and come around back out to the Wilroy Road without infringing on somebody's private property. As well, ATV is a growth thing. We all know that. And even in our little town, it's almost taken over the number of snowmobiles. There is a growing number of boondockers or backcountry snowmobiles in this town. I know lots of guys that go on the weekend, and that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the groom trail ride. And that, so good stuff. Canoeing, kayaking is just as large. There's a lot of kayaks in this little town for the size of our town. And I know the Mo group, I don't know, Manitowoc Outdoor Enthusiasts, I don't know where they ended up with it, but they actually talked once about building like a kayak locker, if you will, down to town dock. It was like a box and you could rent a space for the summer and it held 20 or 30 kayaks and you slid your kayak in like a locker. So it might be a good way to spur on some increased activities if they're still interested or would share their plans and idea, maybe if they're not interested, that something that could augment these ideas and plans. Thank you.
Thanks, Owen, and thanks everyone for your comments. And I thank you, Jillian, for that presentation, and Michael for your feedback. I look forward to sure the other community members look forward to your next steps of how things progress. Florence, did you want to add anything before we move on?
No, just thanks to Mike and Jillian. And Jillian, if you could put the controls back to me, that would be great.
Yes. Let me figure out how to do that.
I think it's just the 3 dots at the top corner of my picture.
Okay. Make host.
Yeah.
All right. I think the power is back in your seat.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay on and listen to the rest of the meeting, or you can leave now. It's strictly up to you.
Okay, I think
Mike?
we're gonna head out. Mike?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks so much for your feedback. Everything was really, really important. It's so good to get more details from the community, because you know how things are actually going to work. So it's really great.
Thanks, Jillian.
Have a good evening.
Mike.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, so moving on to item 8, we got the Revitalization Project Community Improvement Plan by Florence. You have an update for us, Florence?
I have a short update, and I've also asked Jolene to provide some information as well. Last week, Form Studio provided me with the business plan document and the draft community improvement plan. And so there were a few changes to make to that. So I sent that back to them, and I do expect that the final plan will be presented this week. It'll be another large document, so I'll make sure that you get it earlier than you got the Trails Master Plan. And because the Community Improvement Plan is a planning document and that it requires input from Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, I've asked Jolene to follow up with them to see exactly step by step what the process is to ensure that we're meeting the timelines and that we are covering all our bases in terms of having that formally approved by the ministry and by council as well. So Jolene, I'm going to turn it over to you to provide that information to the group.
Thank you, Flo. So I was in touch with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and what we're looking at for the community improvement plan is, can you turn that way? Thanks. Sorry. The process that we need to follow is set out under the Planning Act. It's legislated that we need to take these steps for the approval. Sorry. Okay, so the process for approving the community improvement plan, the first step is to submit the draft to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for review and comment. That will have in their hands for some time. There's a couple of steps that they need to take in their review of it. Once they do that, they will send it back to us. And then at that point, we need to provide 20 days notice for a public meeting. That allows the public to give any input and comment into the draft as well. Once that is received, then we can submit it to council for adoption, and it's council that's the approval authority. No longer is it in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing requirement that they need to approve. It all comes back down to council. And so after that time, once it's adopted by council, there is then a 20-day period for appeal. If there's no appeal, then the decision by council is final and we are good to go with the plan. But if there is an appeal, then that is then submitted to the local planning appeal tribunal. It is them that then decide whether they're going to have a hearing and listen to the appeal or if they're going to dismiss it. So all of this is set out under the Planning Act. Section 28 of the Planning Act allows for the community improvement plan. And then what it flips us back over to Section 17, which is for the official plan approvals and steps. And so that's what we need to follow for the community improvement plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Jolene. So as you can see, it's not as simple as it sounds, but we want to make sure that we're following all the steps that are required in order to make it a document that we can rely on and that we can offer these tools to not only do public sector improvements, but also private sector improvements as well. And at the moment, under the Municipal Act, the township cannot loan or grant funds. And so because this community improvement plan proposes to create incentives, we have to be able to have this document approved by the ministry and by council, which will allow us to make grants and loans for incentive purposes to the private sector. So that's why we have to go through all these steps to make sure that it's approved officially and with all the approvals from both the province and the township as well. That's all I have unless there's any questions. Okay, just a quick update on rebranding. We're still working on this, and I kind of put a bit of a hold on the banners because I want to see the final plan for the community revitalization project to see if there's anything that's in that document that is kind of pointing in a different direction than what I think that we should be going for the banners. But I think we'll be good to go, but I just want to make sure that I've seen the final plan before I go ahead and do some design work on the banners. So Karen, just to let the EDC know that that work is still ongoing, but we do want to have a look at the final community revitalization project before making any final decisions on that. And then no updates on the copyright yet, still working on that. And if there's no questions on that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen, who has some exciting news from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, and who is also a big advocate with their new programs for projects like we're working on, community revitalization, and how they can best and better support the township in these projects.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Florence. So Florence asked me to provide a bit of an overview on the new NOHFC programs that we launched on February 11th. So I will just share I will try to take control. I have a little small slideshow that was prepared from NOHFC. So let's see here. Are you able to see the slideshow?
Not yet, Kathleen, but I did make you the host.
Oh darn, okay, share screen, let's see here. Oh, okay. Let's see. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So just a bit of a background. I work with the Ministry of Energy, Northern Development and Mines as a Northern Development Advisor. So we work very closely with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, which is an organization, agency of our ministry that has an annual allocations to support economic development in Northern Ontario. We had this program gone on hiatus or on a brief pause in the fall of 2020 because we were working quite strongly on the Northern Ontario Recovery Program. But now they've launched this renewed set of programs that I will go over. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to keep this a bit focused to the community programs, which would be a bit more relevant to the township of Manitowoc and some of the work that you're undergoing right now. But I would be quite happy to touch base with anybody who's interested if they would like more information on the programs, on the business programs as well, or just had any project specific questions that I could go over for you. So I'm just gonna flip through. You'll see the Invest North program is the private sector program. So I'm just gonna skip through those ones. And so the first one I'm going to go over with you is this People and Talent program. So this replaces the Northern Ontario internship program that was around for many years. In some ways it is similar, but it has changed in a couple important ways. And the first way that it's changed is that NOHFC has opened the program up now to all individuals. You don't have to have recently graduated within the last 3 years from a college or post-secondary institutional program. And you don't have to be necessarily a youth. This program now is going to be open to anybody who is transitioning into a new type of work, if they are underemployed or unemployed, and they're looking for a new type of job transition. So we have broken this program up into 2 different streams, really to reinforce the hope to support more Indigenous workforce development across Northern Ontario. So you'll see in the slide here that the Indigenous workforce development stream is targeted towards not just Indigenous owned businesses and organizations, but any business that is looking to hire an Indigenous worker that is a self-declared, a self-identified Indigenous person. So notice that for the available funding, NOHSC operates on both grants and loans, but for these programs, the community programs, they are grant programs. So for municipalities, Indigenous communities, and not-for-profits, NOHSC can provide up to 90% of an intern's salary to a maximum of $35,000. For businesses, it's 75% of the intern's salary for a maximum of $52,500. The workforce development stream, the other aspect of that, is open to everybody, and the eligibility for individuals are the same. You know, they can be underemployed or unemployed, looking to transition into a new type of work. And for that grant allocation for municipalities, Indigenous community not-for-profits, it's 90% again to a maximum of $35,000, and for businesses, it's 50% to a maximum of $35,000. When I was trying to think about, there's a couple important other areas that I'll mention as part of the People and Talent program, is that this program is really trying to address challenges around skilled labor and labor shortages. So when you go through the application, you'll notice that there is sections where they're asking, you know, what are the skill sets that are being in demand? You know, what are the opportunities that the intern will have to meet a skilled shortage or a labor shortage? So part of that is coming from the story of your organization as well, and you know how you're understanding an identified shortage. But we are looking for that type of explanation in the applications now. In terms of Manitowoc, the internship program definitely could be applicable, as I'm sure you would have had applications for it previously. Certainly, maybe within the Trails Master Plan, if you're looking for internships, maybe around like GIS or something for like an online portal for the Trails Master Plans, anything around, you know, economic development or marketing or kind of business supports, though I would consider, you know, strong potential projects as well. And I would be happy to talk about that in further detail. The other thing is if there's any not-for-profit organizations that are in Manitowoc or private sector businesses, they would fall into the same criteria as well. And I'd be happy to, you know, have a conversation with anybody if they were interested in that spectrum. I'm just going to move now into the Community Enhancement Program. This is a big change with this program, is that HFC never used to do deferred maintenance, and we always, any kind of construction projects would always have to fit within a economic development aim. But this is a significant change in that there's been a recognition that it's not just about new construction, it's about maintaining assets that are already there, and not just for economic development, but for community quality of life and recreation, and all the important things that are within a community, a rural community, that are not necessarily business driven. So this is a program that I think will be quite well well supported and sort of well applied to, is that for incremental improvements to existing infrastructure. So this is infrastructure that are capital assets like recreational facilities, social facilities, municipal assets, community halls that do contribute to a healthy and vibrant community. So that is kind of up to you to be able to provide descriptions on what is a healthy, vibrant community. There are two streams again within this program, and they relate to the population of a community, and we judge by the most recent census, so the 2016 census for Manitowoc. I did a quick scan. Manitowoc's 2016 census, your population is just over 1,700. So you would fall under this rural enhancement project for communities with a population over 1,500, which would mean that you could be eligible for 75% of the project cost to a maximum of $500,000. And this, I would really encourage the township, as well as not-for-profits and Indigenous communities, to really take a look, to take stock of your municipally owned, your public assets in terms of what could be worked upon, what could be improved, is there any outstanding repairs? And so I don't know all of those, but I would be happy to kind of have a further conversation with you about this. And this is not something like, none of these projects are not like you can only have one project per year, or it's only one at a time. Like, I would encourage you to sort of look at, there's multiple projects that we'd be able to entertain through these. So I would be kind of happy to touch base with you about that a bit further. Importantly, this rural enhancement stream does not support new construction, new capital builds. It's only for improvements to existing infrastructure. But the next one I'm going to go over, this community enhancement, enhance your community. This is a larger pool, and this is for all public sector organizations across Northern Ontario. So you're working with the big municipalities as well as the small ones. And this does also support incremental repairs and renovations, but it doesn't say it on this screen, but this is for new capital builds as well. So this is for larger projects, and it would support 50% of the cost to a maximum of $2 million, which is a little bit different than our previous programs. The previous Strategic Economic Infrastructure Program, it supported, again, 50% of eligible cost to a maximum of $1 million, but sometimes there were special circumstances where there would be requests for up, above that, but now they've raised the cap to 2 million and it's 50%. The next one, so I won't really go over the strategic initiatives for the broadband and cellular, but I can talk about those. I'm happy to talk about those later. The next one is the cultural supports, and the one I will just bring up, the cultural supports, is, it doesn't say it on there, it's the community events program, and that one's pretty similar to what we used to have previously. The community events program will support purchases, it'll support entertainment costs, some incremental staffing if it's particular to the event itself, and it'll support up to 30% of the cost to a maximum of $15,000. So that one is fairly similar to what we had previously. There's not really no differences there. You can find this information and a lot more on the NOHFC website, nohfc.ca, or you can feel free to get in touch with me at any time. And you can see it on, there's a little bit of a overview of different places you can call across Northern Ontario to connect to a Northern Development Advisor who can help you. So Florence also asked me, if anybody has any questions, I'll just answer them in one moment, but Florence asked me to also touch base on the Community Revitalization Planning Committee and some of the work that's been done to date. If I thought maybe there were any fits of programs, or like what are some of my thoughts on it. So I will do that, but I also just want to say as a bit of a caveat that this is certainly like my opinions, and we can talk about it in further detail, but all these decisions are ultimately approved by the board of directors of NOHFC, and they go through a screening process. So that's the one thing. So when I was going through that November 2020 Community Revitalization Planning Study draft that we had presented to us at the January 15th meeting, I do think that the Prospectors Park upgrades around an event space and kind of showcasing the lake, I think that would be a good fit potentially for the Enhance Your Community stream, which I'm going back to right now. Because it would be a new build and it would probably be a larger chunk of funding, it wouldn't necessarily fit within the rural enhancement because I don't think there's existing infrastructure there for an event space, but it would potentially fit under this Enhance Your Community stream. So that's something we could touch base on a bit more. There was mention of revitalizing the boat launch, and I think I would need a bit more information on what the purpose of that would be, but certainly if the launch is in need of repairs and it has infrastructure there already and that there would need to be upgrades to it, you know, whether that was social, recreation, whether that was maybe to host different types of events or for derbies or you know, some different kinds of economic development projects that potentially fit under this rural enhancement stream. So I'd be happy to talk about that. And the next one was this all-season farmers market. I think I would need a bit more information in terms of like what would be involved in that, but certainly if there were purchases that had to be made to be able to host events at the market space, you know, whether you were hosting types of seasonal farmers markets, you needed to buy equipment for that, or some types of purchases to host things there, I would definitely think that that could be potentially a fit as well. It could, I think if you're looking to purchase things for an event, it would probably fit best under this community event stream, but if they were looking at more substantial infrastructure to support the area, I would want to talk to you a bit more about that, but it could potentially fit under the Enhance Your Community stream. There were some things on the image routes, the 3 image routes. I have to go back for more information on whether NOHSC would support direct trail development. I know that there have been, I think there have been instances of that before, but certainly if there were components of like signage or you know, plantings or wayfinding signage that was sort of in conjunction with a larger project, I think that might be something that could be a fit as well. Those are the main ones that I wanted to say. With the Prospectors Park upgrades, I know it does say on the website that NOHFC doesn't support the projects that wouldn't be eligible under these Enhance Your Community or the rural stream would be critical infrastructure or core infrastructure, but there may be an opportunity if you're bringing water or sewer or power to a site, that might be something that could be eligible. They would have to have a bit more conversation about that. Those were the main things that I had pointed out, but again, like I'm very happy to have a conversation about any other projects if you think they could be a fit. And really I would just encourage you, look at any of the municipal publicly owned infrastructure you have, or any of the not-for-profits that are in Manitowoc. If they have legions, you know, any kinds of community buildings, anything like that maybe needs support. And I'd be happy to get in touch with me. So that's my presentation, and I'm happy to have any questions.
Thanks, Kathleen.
I was excited when Flo sent the information by email last week to all the business people in town, and I was excited that you had a presentation tonight. Do you have anything for new business? There's quite a few new residents that came to town. A few clients came to see me this week. One in particular is really excited on trying to open a new business, like from the ground up, new construction. I've already told them to go talk to you, that there was no funding available, but is there anything for something new to attract people to Manitowoc?
Yeah, definitely. Can you see this NOHFC screen right now?
Yes.
The website. So I apologize. I didn't really get into the Invest North program because I thought, oh, you know, I thought I only had 15 minutes, but there definitely is. So the Invest North program, it's in some ways it's similar to the program that was there before, which was the, you know, the startup, the expansion program. So this investment launch stream, this is the program for new businesses if they are looking to apply and get started in Northern Ontario. They do support different types of costs, whether that's capital construction of a new building or leasehold improvements, if there's equipment, ICT investments, marketing and training costs. Importantly, NOHSC has gotten rid of the priority sectors. We used to be bound by priority economic growth sectors in Northern Ontario. So all of the projects had to fit within these growth sectors. So they have gotten rid of those now, and these programs are open to all businesses, with the exception of a couple which do pertain to smaller communities. So retail and customer service businesses that primarily earn revenue by providing products and services directly to individuals. So this doesn't mean that the business is ineligible if they provide some services or products directly to individuals, but there needs to be more. It needs to be more than just selling to individuals. So whether you're selling to or you're providing services to industrial commercial clients, or your whole, you know, you're selling your products to a larger business, for example, like some kind of ratio like that is important, as well as we are not, so accommodation and food services businesses and businesses that are related like that. It's a bit of a tricky one, you know, accommodations is a bit of a broad-based, there are some caveats, you know, if you're a destination location, for example, if you're trying to draw people in from far away and that they're coming for that specific accommodation, that might be a caveat. If you're a food service business, like restaurants are out, but if you're a restaurant that's producing, you know, specialty products that you're selling to a grocery store, or you're selling to a different business, that could be considered manufacturing. So there's different kinds of, everything's kind of a bit, it requires a further discussion essentially on what the particulars of the business are. But there is funding for businesses.
Great, thank you so much. Anyone else have any questions for Kathleen?
Kathleen, it's Florence. Could you talk a little bit about the broadband and cellular project?
Yes, you definitely can. Let me just go back to that one here. I'm just gonna go back into the website now. So I believe that one is under. Okay. Broadband and cellular expansion projects. These are considered to be a strategic initiative, as it's part of the community programs, but they've been parceled off a little bit for a strategic initiative. So NOHSC is open to supporting broadband and cellular expansions, but we also understand that there are other types of provincial supports available, most importantly, like the ICON program. So they have tried to position this program is that they are looking to see what other attempts have been made by communities or by service providers to obtain other funding, either through the ICON program or through the federal programs. So that's something that they are looking at to see like what work has been done previously to try to obtain funding elsewhere. And NOHSC will be able to step in if there are gaps in funding or if there have been reasonable attempts to obtain other places, but they've been unsuccessful. They are emphasizing that they are trying to work towards a preference of 25 megabytes per second and the ability to scale up. So that is something. This is also understanding that some areas will be a little bit less or more depending on the population. So, but that's their target, is to 25 megabytes per second, even up to 50. But they want to be able to have the opportunity to scale up.
So for example, improving cellular coverage on Highway 614, I think that's a Queens highway, not a Kings highway. Am I correct? Anybody can help me with that? And that there is a criteria in there that it's only eligible to Trans-Canada and Kings highways?
That's, you know what, that's something I'll look into. I'm not sure about if it's only open to Trans-Canada or Kings Highway.
Come on, Owen,
I
you should
will
do
look
this
into it.
question. Come on, you know everything about Manitowoc.
Because Manitowoc did receive their, you were able to get the project for high-speed internet, correct? Or you were working on a connection with that?
I'm sorry, Kathleen, could you say that again?
Oh, was there something there were projects that you were working on within the township around, was it cellular coverage or it was high speed?
Broadband. We've
It was broadband.
We've hooked up to fiber for the municipality, and we have a potential to upgrade that system.
Okay.
And that may be a project that Florence and I should talk about with you.
Okay. Okay. That's something I'd be happy to talk about with you as well, because you received funding through, was it through ICON? Would you have gone through ICON?
No, we actually funded ourselves and a partner.
Yep.
So, but
Okay.
looking at potential, I see like your project here talks about a minimum of 25 and preferably 50. So our project right now is basically 25, and we have the potential to take it to 50 per household.
Perfect. Okay, so that may be something we can talk about a bit more if there is an opportunity to scale it up. Yep.
Yeah.
Because you are working in partnership with a private sector company who
Yes.
would be able to install. Yeah.
Yeah, a private firm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's something I'd be happy to kind of touch base with you a bit further about that too. Just write that down.
Not that Florence doesn't have enough work already.
Thanks, Owen. Okay, well, I've been madly taking notes, Kathleen, so I appreciate all the focused effort that you put into your presentation that meets kind of the needs of what the community is working on at the moment. So that's really helpful.
Yeah, I know, it's my pleasure to do that. And like I said, I mean, this was a bit of a quick overview, but I was just trying to pick up some projects I thought maybe could work, but I'm happy to have a further conversation with you about that.
And I think it's really important to mention that as we did our public consultation and reached out to community members to talk about some of the projects within the community revitalization plan, there were many people who commented that this is all good work and good ideas, but how do the residents of the township, how can they afford to pay for all of these upgrades? So hearing this information tonight, I think is hopefully will be reassuring to the residents that there is funding available and then we can complete these projects being financially responsible.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly like NOHFC and FedNor do have a history of partnering together on various projects. So, I mean, I wonder if that could be a conversation, but all this work that you're doing right now is really great. And like the timing's perfect because like as part of a strong project for any of these community streams, like applications, is that NOHFC is looking for some kind of prior identification, some kind of a prior work, planning work, commitments and budgets, like something to demonstrate there has been forethought to these projects that you've been trying to do them. So all of this work is really supportive of that.
That's great. Thank you.
Florence, just an idea. I know you have that list of business groups we dealt with when we were doing the COVID talk with the business community. I wonder if a Zoom meeting with the local businesses, if they'd be interested, Kathleen did a presentation about the new funding. We could probably host that Zoom meeting and maybe have her come in.
Yeah, I can put that out there to the businesses that we've been working with, and
God, just keep shoveling on the work.
Yeah. take a
Yeah,
day.
but that's a, oh, sorry, I interrupted there. But that's a great point. I'd be really happy to do that. Like, I don't have all the businesses' emails or contacts, so I'm just trying to kind of like get the word out, but I'm happy to do any kind of presentation like that.
Yeah, we've had some successful Zoom meetings over COVID with them, and it's been effective and maybe a good mechanism to do this with.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Kathleen.
That's great. Thanks, Kathleen. Fantastic presentation. Moving on, we have item 11, any other business? No? Perfect. So that brings us to number 12. So we have our next meeting date that was scheduled for Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. As always, I'm sure Flo is going to send us a reminder the week before and look to see if everyone's available. And thank you again. I know I wasn't available for the last meeting. I would like to thank everyone for their flexibility, moving things along. And I think it's always great when Flo sends us those reminders. So again, I appreciate all the work that goes behind the scenes, Flo.
You're very welcome.
So that being said, yeah, thumbs up for sure, Chris. We've seen that. So that brings us to the meeting adjournment. So if I can have someone to motion, thank you, Jim, and maybe a seconder. We'll adjourn this meeting at the time of 8:28, and I'll thank everyone for being in attendance and thank everyone for their great presentations. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.